Yo, so I've been thinking a lot about how often we narrate ourselves, not necessarily in loud or dramatic ways, but in small ways, adding extra context to decisions nobody questioned, softening boundaries before anyone pushes back, explaining choices before anyone asks why. It's mostly subtle. You say no to something and immediately follow it with a paragraph. You change direction and feel the need to justify it. You outgrow someone and rehearse the speech in your head before it even happens. A lot of this doesn't stem from the ego. It mostly comes from wanting to be understood. What happens is that our need to constantly explain ourselves turns into a need for permission. And that's where it gets heavy. I used to explain everything. If I didn't reply fast enough, explanation. If I changed plans, explanation. If I was quiet, guess what? Explanation, even when nobody asked. There was this underlying fear that if I didn't clarify myself, people would misinterpret me, and that misinterpretation would somehow harden into identity. So I'd talk more, add context, make sure I wasn't misunderstood. But the more I did it, the more tired I felt. When you explain yourself constantly, you start living slightly outside yourself. Monitoring perception, managing optics, editing in real time. It's exhausting. There was a point where I realized something uncomfortable. The people who genuinely understand you rarely require that much explanation. And the people who don't understand you usually aren't listening for it anyway. Let's cut the bullshit and get real. Some people are going to misunderstand you no matter how clearly you speak. You can craft the perfect explanation, measured tone, thoughtful language, provide full context, and they'll still hear what fits their narrative. People listen through themselves, their world, their perceptions. Once you accept that, something will loosen. You'll stop trying to win clarity battles that were never about clarity in the first place. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes the explanation costs more energy than the misunderstanding ever would. There's a difference between sharing and justifying. Sharing feels open. It's mutual. You're offering context because you want connection. Justifying feels tight, urgent, like you're trying to secure approval. I started paying attention to how my body felt in conversations. If I felt calm while explaining something, it was probably genuine. If I felt anxious, like I needed them to agree, that was different. That was fear talking. Fear being seen as wrong. Fear being seen as different. Fear being seen as less. And fear makes you over-explain. There's something powerful about restraint, about saying what needs to be said and then stopping, not filling every silence or preemptively defending yourself, but just letting your choices stand. Not gonna lie, it feels uncomfortable at first, almost rude, but what seems rude is simply self-trust. When you stop explaining every move, you send a quiet message to yourself more than anyone else. I'm allowed to make decisions without hosting a press conference. Over time, something interesting happens. Your consistency starts speaking for you. People who pay attention understand your patterns. Your values become visible through repetition. Your character becomes clearer than any explanation you could have given. And the ones who still don't get it, they probably never were. When you stop over-explaining, you get energy back. Mental space, emotional space. You're no longer rehearsing conversations in your head at 1 a.m. You're no longer replaying sentences wondering how they landed. You just live. That doesn't mean you become closed off. It means you become selective. You explain yourself in rooms where it deepens trust. You stay quiet in rooms where it would only drain you. That difference changes everything. So let's conclude. You don't owe the world a constant explanation of who you are. Not every shift requires a statement. Not every boundary needs a thesis. Not every silence needs clarification. Sometimes growth looks like moving differently and letting people adjust, or not. The people meant to understand you will. And the ones who don't, explaining harder was never going to fix that. There's a quiet confidence in letting your life speak for itself. And sometimes that's more than enough.